She thought her life had ended the moment she was fired. Every hope, every dream crushed by a single word. And yet, just minutes later, a call changed everything. He wanted her back, and not just as an employee. What she heard next would make her question everything she thought she knew about him. Welcome back to Prime Tale. If you're addicted to billionaire romance, jaw-dropping twists, and stories that keep your heart racing, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe for more story. Today, Emma's story continues. Her fate, her emotions, and her life are about to take a shocking turn that will leave you speechless. Stay tuned. The morning had begun like any other, but for Emma, the maid who had served the prestigious penthouse of the billionaire CEO, everything felt different. She arrived early, as always, her uniform starched and pristine, her shoes reflecting the glittering marble floors of the penthouse. For 3 years, she had been invisible in many ways, expected to be efficient, discreet, and perfect, but today, the air itself seemed heavier. The elevator ride up was unusually quiet. Normally, she would hear the muffled laughter of the CEO's friends, the hum of the office staff, the faint clinking of coffee cups, but today, it was silence. Her heart started to race. She carried herself with dignity, yet a sinking feeling gnawed at her stomach. She knew, somehow, that something was about to happen. As she stepped into the kitchen, she noticed that the usual arrangement of flowers and polished silverware was slightly off. A cup of coffee had been spilled the night before, and someone had hastily wiped it away. She shrugged it off, telling herself she was imagining things. After all, she had a job to do, and any sign of weakness or distraction could be interpreted as incompetence. Minutes later, she heard voices from the office. The CEO's assistant was speaking, her tone unusually formal. "Yes, sir, understood. She'll be notified immediately," the assistant said. Emma's ears perked up. Something in the phrasing made her blood run cold. She could catch only fragments, words like inefficient, terminated, pack her things. Her heart stopped. Terminated? Pack her things? That couldn't be about her. She had never been late, never failed a task, never upset a guest. Could this really be happening? When she was summoned into the CEO's office, every step felt like it weighed a ton. She entered to find him standing by the window, his back straight, hands clasped behind him, his gaze piercing as if he could see every insecurity, every fear, every hope she had ever carried. He turned slowly, and for a moment, there was a flash of the man she had once admired, the one who had smiled at her during rare moments of kindness, who had offered her advice, who had noticed her. But now, his face was unreadable, a mask she couldn't penetrate. "Emma," he said, his voice calm but cold, "I'm afraid your services are no longer required. Please pack your belongings." The words struck her like a physical blow. She felt the ground shift beneath her feet. 3 years. Every early morning, every late night, every moment of silent dedication, reduced to a single sentence. She tried to speak, but no words came. She only nodded, her fingers trembling as she gathered her things. As she packed, memories assaulted her. She remembered the first day she arrived, nervous and unsure, trying not to embarrass herself. She remembered the quiet nod of approval when she did something right, the small smiles, the occasional light-hearted teasing. She remembered the time he had brought her a blanket when she was sick, the time he had defended her from a rude guest, the rare moments when he had shown a glimpse of kindness. And now, none of it mattered. She was dismissed, cast aside like she had never existed. The penthouse felt enormous and empty as she walked toward the elevator. She could feel the weight of his gaze, even from behind. The doors closed with a metallic echo that seemed to reverberate inside her chest. Outside, the world was the same, streets bustling with people, cars honking, life moving forward, but for her, time had stopped. She stepped onto the sidewalk, clutching her bag. Her phone buzzed. A private number. She hesitated but answered. "This is the CEO," a familiar voice said, calm yet urgent. "Come to the office immediately." Confusion, fear, and a strange flutter of hope collided inside her. Why would he call her after firing her? Was it a mistake? A change of heart? Or something far stranger? Minutes later, she turned back toward the penthouse, unaware that every step she took was leading her into a whirlwind that would turn her life upside down. She had been loyal, obedient, invisible, but in the moments to come, she would be seen in a way she could never have imagined. Emma's fingers trembled as she gripped the doorknob of the penthouse again. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. She had been fired. Her entire world had shifted in the span of 5 minutes. And now, the CEO had called her back. The streets outside seemed different this time. The sunlight glinted off the windows of luxury high-rises, but it didn't bring comfort. Each step toward the elevator felt heavier than the last. Her heart raced, a drumbeat of uncertainty, yet she couldn't help but wonder why he wanted her back. When she arrived, the receptionist gave her a subtle, knowing look. It wasn't mockery, it was sympathy, tinged with curiosity. Even she could feel that something unusual was about to unfold. Emma nodded silently and took the elevator up. The ride felt interminable. Every floor felt like a test of patience, every ding of the elevator a countdown toward a life-altering moment. As she entered the office, she noticed that it was empty, eerily so. Only the soft hum of the air conditioning filled the space. And then she saw him, standing by the window, looking out over the city skyline. He seemed different somehow. Not the cold, untouchable CEO she had feared in the past. He seemed human, vulnerable. "Emma," he said, without turning. His voice carried weight, authority, and a strange undertone she couldn't identify. She took a hesitant step forward, unsure whether to sit or stand. He finally turned, and she saw it. His eyes softened, a flicker of something she had never seen before, a mix of regret, longing, and something deeper, more personal. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. She obeyed, heart pounding, mind racing. What could he possibly want? After firing her, after crushing her world, why call her back? For a long moment, he said nothing. He paced slightly, then stopped, hands clasped behind him. The silence stretched, oppressive and heavy, making her pulse quicken. And then, finally, he spoke. "Emma, I made a mistake." Her eyes widened. A mistake? Could this be real, or was it just another cruel twist? He continued, his voice low, deliberate. "It wasn't your work. It wasn't your effort. You have been nothing but dedicated, loyal, and exceptional. The fault is mine." Her breath caught in her throat. She had been ready to leave, to accept the humiliation, to step out into a world where she had no place, no security, no recognition. And yet, here he was, admitting he was wrong. His presence was magnetic, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. "I acted on impulse," he admitted, finally taking a step closer. "You deserve better. And I want to make it right." Emma's life had been turned upside down, twice in the span of a single morning. Fired, humiliated, and then chosen, valued, and desired. And just like that, the world she had thought she knew had shifted into something surreal, dangerous, and intoxicating. She didn't know if she could trust him. She didn't know if this was real. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Emma's legs felt weak as she followed him into the private study, her mind racing. The lavish office was intimidating yet oddly intimate. A thick Persian rug muted her footsteps, and books lined the walls, their spines glowing softly in the afternoon light. The room smelled faintly of cedar and leather, masculine, warm, familiar. He gestured for her to sit. She obeyed, though she was trembling slightly, not from fear alone, but from the electric tension that hummed between them. For 3 years, she had served him with diligence, navigating his icy demeanor, his unpredictable moods, his impossible expectations. And now he had offered her a place beside him, not as a subordinate, but as someone far more personal, far more intimate. He sat across from her, elbows resting lightly on his knees, his gaze fixed on hers. There was a vulnerability there that she had never seen, a softness under the veneer of power, the unmistakable weight of confession. "I need to tell you the truth," he said finally, his voice low, steady, yet carrying a tremor of emotion. "About why I fired you, why I acted so impulsively, and why I called you back." Emma's chest tightened. Every nerve in her body screamed to hear the truth, yet part of her feared it. She had been humiliated, dismissed, made to feel worthless. Could she trust him? Could she even survive another shock? He leaned forward slightly, hands clasped. "Emma, you have always been remarkable. Not just in your work, not just in your efficiency or diligence, but in your heart. You've shown patience, kindness, discretion, and integrity in ways no one else has. And yet, I didn't see it at first. I made a mistake, a terrible one." Her mind reeled. His eyes searched hers, desperate for understanding, for forgiveness. She wanted to speak, to question, to demand clarity, but she found herself unable. Words seemed trivial compared to the intensity in his gaze. "I fired you because I was jealous," he confessed, almost in a whisper. "Jealous of your attention, jealous of your loyalty, jealous of the way you smiled at life, the way you cared about everything around you. It's absurd, I know, irrational, but I couldn't handle it." Emma blinked, stunned. Jealousy? The man who commanded entire corporations, who dictated every facet of his business world, had acted out of jealousy toward her? The notion was almost laughable, yet here it was utterly, painfully real. "I acted impulsively," he continued, "and I hurt you in ways I didn't anticipate. I see that now, and I regret it more than I can express." Her hands tightened in her lap. Conflicting emotions swirled inside her: anger, disbelief, astonishment, and an unexpected flicker of warmth. Could he truly feel remorse? Could this confession be genuine? He stood and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. The city stretched endlessly below them, a web of lights, streets, and lives moving forward, unaware of the storm of emotions in this room. He turned slightly, catching her gaze. "Emma, the truth is, I've been watching over you in ways you don't know, protecting you, anticipating challenges you never imagined, ensuring your safety, even when it meant keeping my distance, keeping my feelings contained. And yet, I couldn't suppress it forever. Not the way I feel about you. Not the way I need you in my life." Her breath caught. Her mind spun with disbelief. This was more than admiration, more than respect, more than fleeting infatuation. The sincerity in his voice, the raw vulnerability in his posture, made her heart ache in ways she hadn't anticipated. He took a deliberate step closer, closing some of the distance between them. "I know you may think this is sudden, irrational, or even impossible, but you have to understand my actions, my decisions, even my mistakes. They all stem from one truth. Emma, I need you, not as a maid, not as an employee, as someone I care for deeply, someone I love." The word love hit her like a physical force. Her mind tried to process it, but the room seemed to tilt, reality warping around her. He had confessed feelings that she had never dared to hope for, feelings that made her pulse quicken, her stomach knot, and her heart ache with an impossible intensity. Tears pricked her eyes, and she struggled to maintain composure. You can't just say that," she whispered, voice trembling. "You can't just change everything after how you treated me." He shook his head gently, taking a seat closer to her this time. I know I hurt you, and I know that words alone can't fix the past, but I'm asking for a chance to show you that I can be the man worthy of your trust, of your heart. You are more than an employee, Emma. You are extraordinary, and I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in his eyes, the weight of his confession, and the unexpected tenderness in his tone shattered every wall she had built over the years. Every fear, every doubt, every memory of humiliation collided with an impossible reality. The man who had fired her loved her. Minutes passed in silence, the air thick with unspoken tension. Emma felt a swirl of conflicting emotions: disbelief, fear, hope, desire, anger. Could she trust him? Could she allow herself to believe that his words were real? That this confession wasn't just another form of control, manipulation, or whim? He extended his hand toward her, not commanding, not expecting, but offering. "Emma, will you let me make this right? Will you trust me?" Her fingers hovered over his, trembling. The weight of the moment pressed down on her. 3 years of servitude, humiliation, and longing had led to this point: an impossible, shocking, heart-stopping confession of love. And now, in the span of minutes, her life teetered on the edge of transformation. The choice was hers. And yet, before she could respond, the sound of a door opening startled them both. An assistant appeared, urgency etched on her face. "Sir, there's a situation with the board. They're asking for an immediate update." He nodded, a brief flash of frustration crossing his features. "I'll handle it." "Emma, wait here." Alone again, the weight of his confession pressed on her chest. Her mind raced. Could this be real? Could the man who had dismissed her, humiliated her, and held power over her heart actually care for her? And if it was real, could she dare to reciprocate? The room seemed to shrink around her, the city outside bustling yet distant. as she realized one terrifying, exhilarating truth. Her life, her heart, and her future had been irreversibly altered. She didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. Emma's heart was still racing from his confession. The room seemed smaller now, as though the walls themselves pressed in with the weight of his words. She could feel the tremor in her fingers as she sat, staring at him, trying to process everything. 3 years of service, humiliation, and longing had led to this moment of vulnerability and revelation. He walked toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, pausing to look out at the sprawling city below. The sun was beginning to dip behind the skyscrapers, casting long golden shadows that danced across the room. Emma's gaze followed him, but her mind was consumed by the gravity of his words. He loved her, genuinely, passionately, undeniably. "I know this is sudden," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "And I know that my actions in the past, firing you, humiliating you, keeping my feelings hidden, make it hard to believe anything I say now. But Emma, I need to be honest. Life is too short for regrets, too short for missed chances." Her breath caught. She wanted to question, to protest, to demand clarity, but the sincerity in his eyes left her speechless. He turned, and for the first time, his expression softened entirely. No mask of power, no shield of authority. Just him, vulnerable and raw. "I've watched you all these years, Emma. Seen your dedication, your integrity, your kindness. I admired you from a distance, feared my own feelings, and acted foolishly. But now, I can't hold back. Not anymore." Emma's mind spun. She had imagined scenarios like this, daydreamed about what might happen if he noticed her, if he saw her as more than a maid, but nothing had prepared her for the intensity of this moment. The room seemed to pulse with electricity, each heartbeat echoing the tension between them. He took a slow step toward her, closing the distance. "Emma, I want more than just your forgiveness. I want your trust. I want your future. I want you in my life, not as an employee, not as someone beneath me, but as someone equal, someone cherished, someone mine." The words hung in the air, heavy with possibility and danger. Emma's fingers twisted nervously in her lap. Could this be real? Could she trust him after everything, the humiliation, the firing, the secrecy? Then, in a voice that made her stomach flutter and her pulse race, he said the words that would change her life forever. "Emma, will you marry me?" The room seemed to stop. The city outside continued its ceaseless motion, oblivious to the seismic shift in Emma's world. Her mind screamed disbelief. Marry him? The man who had once wielded power over her life like a blade? The man whose very presence had once intimidated her? And yet, the sincerity in his eyes, the raw emotion in his voice, left her reeling. Tears welled in her eyes, a mixture of shock, fear, and an unexpected thrill. She wanted to speak, to say something, but words failed her. She could only stare, heart pounding, as the man she had served for years bared his soul before her. He took another step closer, lowering himself to sit on the edge of his desk, bringing him level with her. "I know this is sudden," he said gently, "and I don't expect an answer right now. But know this: I am offering you a choice. You can walk away, return to the life you knew, and I will respect it. Or you can take a chance with me, Emma, and we can build something together, something real, something extraordinary." Her thoughts raced. The room, the city, the lights, the chandeliers, they all faded into the background as the gravity of his offer sank in. This was more than a proposal. It was a choice between safety and risk, obedience and love, past and an unknown future. Emma's mind reeled. Could she accept? Could she trust that his words were genuine, that this wasn't a fleeting impulse or a game of power? She had been humiliated, discarded, treated like an object, and yet, here he was, offering her everything she had never dared to dream of. Her chest tightened with conflicting emotions: fear, excitement, disbelief, longing. She remembered the mornings she had worked tirelessly, the moments she had gone unnoticed, the times she had feared for her place in his world. And now, he wanted her not just as a maid, but as a partner, a confidant, a wife. Minutes passed in silence. The tension was suffocating, yet exhilarating. She could feel the weight of destiny pressing on her shoulders, urging her to make a choice that would redefine everything she knew. He reached out his hand again, this time not commanding, not expecting, but offering. "Emma, whatever you decide, Know that I mean every word I say. I want you in my life. I want you as my wife. And I will wait, however long it takes, for your answer." Her heart raced. She could feel the warmth of his hand just inches away, the electricity of possibility, the overwhelming realization that her life would never be the same. She was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into a future she had never imagined, a future that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. The room was silent except for the sound of her own heartbeat. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the monumental decision unfolding within this luxurious office. She had been a maid, invisible, dismissed, humiliated. And now, she had the chance to step into a world of love, power, and unimaginable change. Emma's fingers hovered over his outstretched hand. The choice was hers. One word, one decision, would alter the course of her life forever. And in that charged, electric silence, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her answer. The afternoon sun poured into the luxurious office, casting long shadows across the polished marble floors. Emma sat, heart racing, as the magnitude of the proposal, the promise, the intensity, the audacity still reverberated in her chest. The room was silent except for the distant hum of city life, yet it felt suffocating intimate, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. The billionaire CEO, Alexander, paced slowly, hands clasped behind him. His jaw was set, yet his eyes betrayed a mixture of tension, regret, and determination. "Emma, there's more you need to know," he said, voice low and serious. Her heart skipped a beat. More? She had already been shocked beyond reason. More what? He stopped pacing and turned to face her fully, his gaze unwavering. "What I'm about to tell you, it's not easy, and it may change the way you see me, see us, see everything. But I can't keep it from you anymore." Emma's pulse quickened. She wanted to back away, to tell him it was too soon, that she needed time, but some force, a mix of curiosity and fear, rooted her in place. She nodded slightly, urging him to continue. He walked toward a side cabinet and retrieved a small, leather-bound folder. Setting it carefully on the desk, he opened it to reveal a series of documents, photographs, and letters. "These are things I've kept hidden, things you were never meant to see until you were ready. They reveal why I've acted the way I have, why I fired you, why I called you back, why I'm here, asking for more than just your presence at work." Emma leaned in cautiously. Her eyes flicked across the papers. She saw reports, financial documents, and correspondence that hinted at corporate battles, dangerous enemies, and personal threats she had never imagined existed. Each piece of information painted a portrait of a man who had lived a life far more complicated than she had ever realized, and who had secretly protected her from dangers she hadn't even known existed. "I have enemies, Emma," he admitted, his voice quieter now, almost vulnerable. "People who would use anyone in my life to get to me. Threats that have stalked me for years, some still very real. You were always in the line of fire, and I couldn't allow that. That's why I kept my distance. Why I fired you, it wasn't because of your work, it was because I needed to protect you, even if it hurt you." Emma's mind spun. The humiliation, the dismissal, the moments she had felt worthless, it had all been a cover for something far deeper, far more dangerous, far more personal. She had been punished, yet also shielded. Conflicted feelings churned inside her: anger at the deception, gratitude for the protection, fear of the threats she had been unaware of, and an undeniable pull toward him. Alexander stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "I never wanted you to be a pawn in my world. You are not expendable. You are not replaceable. And I could no longer bear the thought of losing you, even before you knew the stakes. That's why I had to take the actions I did, why I had to call you back and tell you the truth. Emma, I need you to understand the weight of my world, the danger, and my feelings for you. Everything I've done was with one goal: to keep you safe and close, even if it meant making impossible choices." Tears pricked at Emma's eyes. Every revelation, every secret, every hidden truth transformed the man she had served for years from an intimidating, unapproachable soul into someone complex, deeply human, and terrifyingly devoted. She had thought she knew him. She had thought the world was simple. But now, nothing made sense, and yet everything felt undeniably real. Her hands shook as she reached toward one of the photographs in the folder. A picture of her walking to work months ago, unaware that someone had been watching over her, documenting moments to ensure her safety. You were protecting me?" she whispered. Alexander nodded, his eyes intense. "Yes. Every step, every day, every risk I took, it was all to ensure you were safe. To ensure that the moment I finally could be honest with you, you would be alive, whole, and capable of making your choice. That moment is now." The room felt smaller, charged with emotion and intensity. The weight of unspoken truths pressed down on her chest. She realized that every humiliation she had endured, every moment of fear or doubt, had been intertwined with his hidden protection and his growing feelings for her. It was overwhelming, impossible, and yet she couldn't deny the attraction, the tension, the undeniable pull between them. Alexander reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch gentle but electric. "Emma, I want you to see me as I am, flaws and all. I want you to trust me, even if it's terrifying. I want you to know that everything I've done, every choice, every risk, has been with you in mind. You are the most important person in my life. You are everything." Her chest tightened, a whirlwind of emotions threatening to engulf her. Anger, awe, fear, gratitude, longing, they all collided in a storm of unrelenting intensity. She wanted to speak, to question, to flee, but the raw sincerity in his eyes held her in place. Minutes passed, silence stretching between them, heavy with unspoken understanding. Emma realized that this was more than a confession. It was a revelation of a life she had never known existed, a world of danger, complexity, and passion intertwined. And at the center of it all was him, the man who had fired her, called her back, and now stood before her, offering everything and nothing, love and risk, safety and uncertainty. She didn't know how to respond. Her heart, mind, and soul were in turmoil. Every instinct told her to run, to protect herself, to stay in the familiar world she had known. Yet another part of her, the part that had admired him from afar, longed for acknowledgement, and craved connection, urged her to stay, to trust, to leap into the unknown. Alexander stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper that seemed to resonate in her chest. "Emma, the choice is yours. You can walk away, or you can trust me and step into a life that will be nothing short of extraordinary. I am yours if you are willing to be mine." Her breath caught, tears threatening to spill. Her past, her pain, her fears, they all collided with this shocking, heart-stopping truth. The man who had once fired her, humiliated her, and controlled her world had been protecting her all along. And now, he wanted her completely, unconditionally, and dangerously. The room seemed to pulse with electricity, the city outside oblivious to the life-altering decisions unfolding within these walls. Emma's heart raced. She could feel the gravity of the moment pressing down, urging her to make a choice that would define her destiny, her love, and her future. And in that charged, electric silence, she realized one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The afternoon had faded into evening. The city skyline glowed with thousands of lights, reflecting off the crystal-clear windows of the penthouse. Emma sat on the plush sofa, hands clasped in her lap, still reeling from the revelations of the previous hours. Her heart raced not just from shock and awe, but from the realization that her life was now irrevocably intertwined with Alexander's, a life of luxury, love, and danger. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax slightly, leaning back into the cushions. The air was still, charged with anticipation. Then, the penthouse phone rang, slicing through the silence like a knife. She hesitated, but Alexander answered it with his usual calm authority. Emma could sense the tension in his posture, the subtle tightening of his jaw, even before he spoke. After a brief conversation, he hung up, his face clouded with concern. "We have a situation," he said, his deep voice unusually serious. "Enemies from the board, a few who have resented my decisions. They're threatening to make things difficult. And someone from my past has resurfaced, someone who doesn't want to see me happy." Emma's stomach tightened. She had known he had enemies in the business world, but the immediacy, the personal nature of these threats, terrified her. For the first time, she realized that loving a billionaire was not just about wealth or romance, it was about navigating danger, deception, and power. Before she could respond, the penthouse intercom buzzed. The security team announced a visitor, Someone requesting immediate access, claiming it was urgent. Alexander frowned, signaling his assistant to verify. Moments later, he turned to Emma, his expression serious. I need you to stay here. This could get messy. Emma's heart raced. Messy? She wanted to argue, to insist on helping, but something in his tone stopped her. She nodded reluctantly, sitting back as he left the room. Minutes later, the faint sound of voices raised, urgent, drifted from the hallway. Suddenly, the penthouse doors swung open, and a familiar face appeared. It was Vanessa, Alexander's former fiancée, a woman known for her ambition, charm, and ruthless streak. Her eyes locked on Emma, a mixture of disdain and fury flashing across her face. So this is her? Vanessa sneered, voice dripping with contempt. The maid who somehow convinced Alexander to forget all about me? Emma's pulse skyrocketed. The tension in the room was palpable. She had been expecting conflicts, but nothing prepared her for the intensity of a rival who not only had history with Alexander, but also held the social power to manipulate situations against her. Alexander appeared behind her, calm yet commanding. Vanessa, he said evenly, you're not welcome here. Vanessa smirked. Oh, I think I am. After all, it's in my interest to remind everyone of the past, especially when someone new is trying to take what's mine. Emma felt a surge of panic. She was no longer just a maid. She was now at the center of a dangerous web of jealousy, power, and revenge. Her mind raced. Could she handle this world? Could she trust Alexander to protect her? Alexander stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Emma. Leave, he said, his tone icy. Vanessa's smile faltered for a moment, replaced by a glint of anger. I'll be seeing you, she hissed, turning sharply and storming out. Emma exhaled shakily. Is it always like this? She asked, voice trembling. Alexander sighed, running a hand through his hair. No, but when you're involved with someone like me, it can be dangerous. I've had to deal with rivals, threats, and enemies my entire life. Some are in business, some in social circles, and some are more personal. The tension didn't ease. Emma realized that love with him meant being part of his world, one filled with power, influence, and danger. Her heart pounded not just from the intensity of his gaze, but from the realization that every choice now carried risk. Over the next hours, the penthouse became a command center. Alexander's security team monitored communications, reviewed surveillance, and prepared for potential threats. Emma watched, amazed at the complexity of his life and the constant vigilance it required. She began to understand that his protective nature wasn't just emotional, it was tactical. Every action, every decision, every word he had spoken over the past hours had been calculated not only to express feelings, but also to ensure her safety. The evening grew darker, the city below shimmering with countless lights. Emma felt a mixture of awe and fear. Loving Alexander wasn't just about romance, it was about courage, trust, and stepping into a world that few could navigate. Hours later, after the immediate threat had been managed, Alexander returned to Emma. He sat beside her, close enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence. I know this is overwhelming, he said softly, but I need you to understand something. Being with me, it's not easy. There will be challenges, jealousy, danger, and pressure. But I promise you this. I will protect you, and I will fight for you, no matter what. Emma's heart raced. She had glimpsed the shadowy edges of his world, seen the threats and the rivalries. And yet, despite the fear, she felt a deep, inexplicable pull toward him. She realized that love with him wasn't just passion, it was trust, courage, and the willingness to face the unknown together. The night stretched on. Emma lay awake, thinking of the events that had unfolded, the proposal, the confessions, the secrets, the threat of enemies at the door. Every emotion collided within her: fear, longing, gratitude, and an undeniable desire to stay by his side. She understood now. Loving Alexander meant embracing the full spectrum of his life, the power, the danger, and the intensity. And as she drifted into a restless sleep, she knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be simple again. The world outside continued unaware, the city lights sparkling, while inside the penthouse, Emma had stepped into a life where love, danger, and desire collided in ways she had never imagined. The city below glittered like a million stars, indifferent to the storm of emotions raging in the penthouse above. Emma stood at the window, hands clasped tightly, staring out at the nightscape. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, fears, and emotions. The events of the past 24 hours had been overwhelming. Fired, humiliated, called back, confessed to, proposed to, and now faced with threats from enemies. Every heartbeat reminded her of the magnitude of what she was about to decide. Alexander sat behind his desk, watching her with a mixture of patience and intensity. His presence was commanding yet comforting, and every inch of him radiated both power and vulnerability. Emma knew that whatever choice she made tonight would irrevocably change her life. "I need to know what you're thinking," Alexander said softly, breaking the tense silence. "I can wait, but I need you to understand something, Emma. This isn't just about us. It's about your life, your safety, and your happiness. I want you to step into this world with me, fully aware of the risks and rewards." Emma turned to face him, eyes wide with uncertainty. I don't know if I can," she admitted, voice trembling. "I've been fired, humiliated, and now you ask me to trust you completely? To love you? To become part of a life I barely understand?" He stood and walked to her side, gently taking her hand. "I know it's a lot. I know it's frightening. But Emma, everything I've done has led to this moment. The risks, the secrets, the threats, they were all meant to protect you, to give us a chance. I don't want you to fear me or my world. I want you to see it as an opportunity for us, together." Her heart raced. Every nerve in her body was on edge. She thought about the proposal, the confession, the enemies, the threats. Could she trust him? Could she leap into a life that promised love but carried danger and uncertainty? Alexander's eyes softened, and he lowered his voice. "Emma, I'm giving you a choice. You can walk away, stay in the life you know, safe but ordinary. Or you can take a chance with me, as my partner, my confidant, my wife. I can't promise it will be easy, but I promise it will be real. And I promise to fight for you, protect you, and love you every day." Tears welled in her eyes. The weight of his words, the depth of his sincerity, the gravity of the moment all collided inside her. She wanted to run, to escape, to protect herself. Yet another part of her, the part that had admired him from afar, longed for recognition, and secretly dreamed of love, urged her to stay, to trust, to leap into the unknown. Emma closed her eyes, letting the emotions wash over her. She thought of every early morning, every late night, every moment she had worked tirelessly in his penthouse. She remembered the small gestures, the quiet smiles, the rare kindnesses. And she realized something she hadn't admitted to herself. She cared for him, deeply, completely. And the possibility of building a life together terrified her, thrilled her, and ignited a fire within her heart. When she opened her eyes, she saw Alexander waiting, patient, unwavering, his hand still gently holding hers. "Emma," he said softly, "whatever you decide, know this: I will accept it, respect it, and wait for you. But I hope you choose us." Her breath caught. Time seemed to slow as she weighed her options. Safety versus love, familiarity versus passion, caution versus trust. Her fingers tightened around his. She could feel the warmth of his hand, the strength of his presence, the undeniable pull of his heart toward hers. Finally, her lips trembled as she spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "Alexander, I choose us." The relief and intensity in his eyes were overwhelming. He pulled her close, wrapping her in a protective embrace that conveyed more than words ever could. "Emma, you have no idea how happy you just made me," he murmured, pressing his forehead to hers. She rested against him, heart pounding, mind spinning, but also filled with an unexpected calm. For the first time in days, she felt seen, valued, and desired. Not as a maid, not as an employee, but as a partner, a confidant, a woman loved fully and fiercely. The penthouse was quiet again, but the air was electric with possibility. Outside, the city continued its endless motion, unaware that two lives had been irrevocably changed within these walls. Emma realized that the choice she had made wasn't just about love, it was about courage, trust, and embracing a life that promised both risk and reward. Alexander held her hand as they walked to the window together, staring out at the glittering skyline. "Emma," he said softly, "this is just the beginning. There will be challenges, threats, and obstacles. But I promise you this: we face them together." Her heart swelled. She had stepped into a world she didn't fully understand, but one that promised love, intensity, and a life richer than she had ever imagined. And in that moment, she knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. As the night settled over the city, Emma felt a surge of excitement, fear, and anticipation. She had chosen love, and with it came a journey of unknown challenges, profound trust, and overwhelming emotion. Her life with Alexander had begun, and it would be anything but ordinary. The morning air in the penthouse was crisp, filled with anticipation and a tension Emma could feel in her bones. After making the ultimate choice to trust Alexander, her world had shifted entirely. She was no longer a maid, no longer invisible, no longer powerless. She was now entwined in a world of love, wealth, influence, and danger. Alexander was unusually quiet that morning, pacing the office with a determined energy. His usual calm demeanor was replaced with a tight-lipped focus, eyes darting to the phone, the security monitors, and the skyline. Emma watched, sensing that something was about to happen, something that would test both their courage and the strength of their newfound bond. "Emma," he said suddenly, voice low and urgent, "we have a situation. Vanessa isn't the only one with designs against me. Some people from the board, combined with external rivals, are planning something drastic. It's time you understand the full extent of the danger you're in and the part you play in my world." Emma's heart raced. She had seen glimpses of the threats before, but now, standing at the edge of Alexander's world, the reality was overwhelming. It wasn't just business, it was personal. Every choice, every interaction, every moment of trust was fraught with risk. He led her to the security room, a high-tech command center filled with monitors, communications equipment, and a network of surveillance cameras. The screens displayed live feeds of entrances, city streets, and security checkpoints. A team of agents moved efficiently, their eyes scanning every frame, every detail, every anomaly. "These people are ruthless," Alexander explained, voice tense. "They won't hesitate to use anyone, including you, to get to me. And Vanessa, she isn't done. She's smart, vengeful, and capable of manipulation on a scale you've never seen." Emma's mind spun. She had imagined romance and passion, but never espionage, danger, and calculated threats. Yet, here she was, standing beside the man she had chosen, realizing that love with him meant facing perils she could not have imagined. Suddenly, an alarm blared. One of the monitors flashed red, a breach at the penthouse entrance. Emma froze, heart pounding. Alexander moved with lightning speed, issuing commands, activating security protocols, and coordinating his team. "Stay behind me," he said firmly, pulling her close. "No matter what happens, I will protect you. Trust me." Seconds later, the doors to the penthouse were forced open. A figure appeared, masked, aggressive, and determined. Emma's breath caught. She had imagined threats, but seeing one so close, so real, brought a wave of fear she could not suppress. Alexander acted instantly. With calm precision, he disarmed the intruder, securing the situation within moments. But it wasn't over. Through the comma system, he identified multiple coordinated threats moving through the building, a sophisticated plot targeting him and anyone connected to him. Emma clung to him, adrenaline surging through her veins. She had chosen love, and now she was facing its consequences head-on. Every skill he had, every resource at his disposal, was being deployed to protect them both. Hours passed in tense vigilance. Alexander coordinated defenses, intercepted communications, and neutralized threats, while Emma observed. Her fear mingled with awe. She realized that this world was more complex than she had ever imagined, but also that her trust in him had been worth every moment of uncertainty. Finally, the threats were neutralized. The penthouse was secure, the immediate danger past. Alexander turned to Emma, face flushed, eyes intense. "You stayed," he said softly. "You trusted me, even in the face of danger. That means everything." Emma's voice trembled. "I had to," she admitted, "because I love you. And I know that being with you means facing everything, even the dangers." He pulled her close, holding her as if he would never let go. "And I love you, Emma, more than I ever thought possible. Today proved it. We can face anything together, as long as we trust each other." The city outside sparkled under the evening sky, unaware of the chaos and danger that had unfolded in the penthouse above. But inside, Emma felt a sense of calm, courage, and certainty. She had chosen love, faced danger, and discovered strength she didn't know she possessed. As they stood together by the window, Alexander whispered, "This is just the beginning. There will be challenges, threats, and obstacles, but we face them together, always." Emma smiled, heart full, adrenaline fading into warmth. She had stepped into a life she had never imagined, full of love, intensity, danger, and passion. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly alive, truly cherished, and ready to face whatever came next. The night settled over the city, glittering like 1,000 promises. Emma had chosen love, trust, and courage. And as she held Alexander close, she knew one undeniable truth. Nothing, and no one, could ever take this moment and this love away from her. Behind her continued as if nothing had happened, secretaries typing, phones ringing, people laughing, yet her world had stopped. Her mind replayed the events again and again. The silence in the office, Alexander's measured gaze, the cold words, the letter itself. No longer required. Each repetition made her stomach churn and her pulse race. She felt humiliation and disbelief, but also a strange, quiet anger. How dare he treat her like this? And then her phone buzzed. She jumped, nearly dropping it, and fumbled to unlock the screen. A new message from Alexander. She hesitated before opening it. Her pride, her dignity, screamed at her to ignore it. But curiosity, and something deeper she refused to admit, made her thumb tap the screen. "Emma, please come back. I need to see you." Her breath caught. Her heartbeat thundered in her chest. She read the message again, slowly. "Need to see me?" The words were simple, but their impact was enormous. Why now? Why would the man who had just fired her want her back? Her mind was a storm of possibilities. Was it an apology? Was it another humiliation? Was it something else entirely? Emma had no answers, only the pull of a mystery she couldn't resist. Minutes passed. She felt her bag weigh heavier, the building suddenly oppressive. A voice in her head urged her to leave, to walk out, and never look back. But another voice, quieter yet stronger, whispered curiosity, hope, and perhaps fear of missing something important.